Good evening. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Amitabh Brevi. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi has begun his two-day visit to the United Arab Emirates, the UAE. He's the first Prime Minister, Indian Prime Minister, to visit the UAE in 34 years. The last in 1981 was Indira Gandhi. He's the first Prime Minister to visit the Arab state, as we're saying, in 34 years. That's a country which is also home to 2.6 million Indians. And what we're expecting now is that the Prime Minister's first public engagement is a visit to the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque. That's the third largest in the world after the ones in Makkah and Medina in Saudi Arabia. Also on the agenda today will be a lot of business meetings. Narendra Modi is scheduled to interact with Indian workers in their accommodations. He will also be at a dinner which is hosted by the Managing Director of the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, ADIA. That's Sheikh Hamad bin Zayed Al Nahyan. ADIA has about $800 billion in sovereign funds, and India is expected to woo it to make investments in the country in infrastructure development. Let's in fact just get a view from Ketki Angre, who's reporting on the Prime Minister's visit there, and she reports on what's on the agenda.
Well, that's right. In fact, what's also interesting is that the Prime Minister was received by the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, which is a clear departure from normal protocol. Normally, it's the Foreign Minister who receives dignitaries at the airport, and the last time that the Crown Prince had actually come to receive somebody personally, it was in May when it was the King of Morocco, with whom the family shares a very close tie. So, of course, this itself is a great start for the India-UAE chapter. Also, given the fact that this is the first time in 34 years that the Prime Minister from India is visiting UAE. Lots of agenda on business, culture, as well as interaction with Indians, whether it's with the blue-collar workers he's going to meet later today at the ICAD residential campus to see firsthand the conditions they live in, where they stay, what are the kind of facilities that they're given, etc. These are some of the aspects that he will go into and also interact with them one-on-one. There are about 300 workers who have been selected for this, and they will get a chance to meet with the Prime Minister. And these are mostly blue-collar workers, so there's a lot of excitement among them as well, because normally, and this is a feeling that many of them talk to us about, that normally it's, when anyone comes to UAE, they want to see the glitzy places, the palaces, the royal Corniche, the areas of Abu Dhabi that make up the Abu Dhabi skyline. But it's the first time the Prime Minister is actually coming and meeting workers. And these workers, actually 2.6 million of them work here in the UAE, and they send back over $10 billion every year back home to India. So certainly, this is an aspect that the Prime Minister understands, and he also wants to interact with them. What's also interesting is that he's chosen to start his visit. His first public appearance will be at the Sheikh Zayed Mosque. Now, this is a structure which is a spectacular structure, but it's also a symbol of interpersonal faith and a great interreligious faith as well. And that's one of the aspects that he will begin his visit with. And this is also a place which was conceived by Sheikh Zayed, who's the founder of the UAE. So given this is going to be the evening schedule for the Prime Minister. Tomorrow he visits the Masdar city. Again, that's a center where their focus is really on renewable energy. So it is just a two-day visit, but it's packed with business agenda, with cultural visits, with investment visits, and of course that big stadium event that we'll see tomorrow in Dubai, where he will address 50,000 Indians.
We'll get more live from Ketki Angre, but joining us now from the capital is Vivek Karjo, former Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, and Shahid Siddiqui, editor of Nayi Dunya. Master Karjo, we do believe that this trip was not originally on the cards and was put together suddenly on the urging of the Prime Minister. You were there when the last Indian Prime Minister visited the UAE, Indira Gandhi, in 1981. Why is the UAE so important to Narendra Modi?
I think the UAE is very important to India, and therefore it is important to the Indian Prime Ministers. It is a sad commentary on our priorities that it has taken 34 years for a prime ministerial visit after Mrs. Gandhi's visit in 1981. Now, The UAE is important for a variety of reasons. They are strategic, they are security related, reasons of the economy and commerce, and finally investments and remittances from the 2.6 million or 26 lakhs Indians who live and work in the UAE. At the present moment, the UAE also has a pivotal importance given the transformation that is taking place in the Arab Peninsula region and along the Persian Gulf. So given all that together, I think it is timely that the Prime Minister is visiting the UAE, and it is particularly satisfying from a foreign policy and security policy perspective that the UAE is understanding the importance of Mr. Modi's visit. No wonder this morning, I think the Foreign Minister of the UAE, Abdullah bin Zayed, has written an article in a UAE daily on Indo-UAE relations, and if you permit me to quote, he says in that the UAE looks forward to elevating the relationship, the bilateral relationship, to a comprehensive strategic partnership level.
Sure.
So that is the importance which the UAE is paying, and I'm sure that the Indian government is reciprocating that importance.
And we saw that with the Crown Prince also breaking protocol and receiving the Prime Minister at the airport. Shahid Siddiqui, the first public appearance that Narendra Modi is going to make in the next few minutes is at the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque. Now, how important is that symbolically, since it's the third largest mosque in the world after Makkah and Medina?
I fully agree with Mr. Karju. It's been extremely unfortunate that India has not focused on the Gulf, and Dubai is the gateway to the whole of this Gulf region, oil rich, extremely important to us in strategic ways, for our economy, for our large number of people who are working there and who will come back to us. They are not like NRIs in the West. They go there, work there, send the remittances and come back to India. So they are extremely important, and Dubai is one of the most liberal and within quotes liberal, open, modern Gulf or West Asian countries. Sure. So we should have focused on this region much more, much before, I think, but it's never too late. And visiting the mosque is, we are unnecessarily in India, we give hype to issues which are non-issues. Because the Sheikh Zayed Mosque is like the Taj Mahal of Dubai, of Abu Dhabi. And anybody who goes there, whether he is from India, whether it's a Modi or it's a Prime Minister of Pakistan or King of Morocco or anybody, would love to visit the mosque. Because it is just not a mosque, it is one of the marvels of architecture of modern times and modern technology. And therefore, Mr. Modi is going there is symbolic, yes, in a small way, but I will not give it that importance that some of the people in India and some of the
Sure.
media people are giving it to.
Sure.
It doesn't really mean much. But yes, his visit to Abu Dhabi is important because there was a lot of talk about he's not visiting any of the so-called Muslim countries. So that way it is important. And before he goes to Israel this year or next year, it has its own message.
Now, that's an interesting point that you're bringing up. Ambassador Kachu, the point that Shahid Siddiqui is talking about the proposed or the expected visit of a first Indian Prime Minister. We know the President will be going, the dates are out for that at least. We don't know when the Prime Minister will be going to Israel. So is this like some kind of a counterbalancing against that visit?
May I say just one point on the last issue that Mr. Siddiqui raised before
Sure.
coming to the question you've raised, Amitabh.
Sure.
I think there is a context why Mr. Modi's visit to the Sheikh Zayed Mosque is important. And we all know the domestic context. But in this, there is one very important thing which perhaps has escaped notice so far, which is an interview which the Prime Minister has given to a UAE daily, where he says the bonds between the two countries are of religion, culture and commerce. Now, the critics of Mr. Modi, I think, should note this, that he is acknowledging that Islam forms a bond between India and the UAE. And that is an important acknowledgement given Mr. Modi's ideological background. In this respect, he is going on the way that Mr. Vajpayee went.
Sure.
And that is a very welcome development. Incidentally, Mr. Vajpayee also visited the UAE as the External Affairs Minister,
right,
and was given an outstanding welcome. I was present there in the embassy those days. Now, coming to your specific question, my own assessment is that the West Asian region, particularly the Gulf region, is in a flux. And our diplomacy at this time has to be very, very adroit. We know that the Iranian foreign minister has just visited India. Perhaps he's tried to balance the visit to India by earlier visiting Pakistan. The Iranians are conscious of India's importance. The UAE and other Arab Gulf countries are all equally conscious of India's significance and weight in the region, and therefore they, I think, will not at all mind India's relationship with Israel. This is a bogey. Most important countries of the world have a relationship with Israel, and therefore there is not a balancing act, but the fact that it remains that it's in our interest, in India's national interest, to reach out to all parties in West Asia and North Africa, and Israel is one of them.
Sure. Realpolitik there. Well, we're seeing pictures there of the Prime Minister arriving at the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque. Kirti Angre is following those developments in the UAE and is joining us as well. How important is this first public appearance being seen, Kirti?
Well, certainly it is extremely symbolic. Now, the Sheikh Zayed Mosque is something that was conceived by Sheikh Zayed, the founder of the UAE. Many believe it's a legacy of him, and he's the father of the nation. So it's symbolic that the Prime Minister has chosen to visit a monument which really embodies everything that he stood for. He was a visionary leader, and that's really one of the reasons why the UAE has scaled to the levels that it has. And also today, the Prime Minister, in an interview to Khaleej Times, also talked about that remarkable vision and also innovation, which is an important part of the UAE, how they've managed to build the desert, as he called it. So certainly this is something which is a very symbolic visit. It is the first time he's visiting mosque after becoming the Prime Minister, but the ambassador pointing out there that, it's like visiting the Taj Mahal if you're in Agra. That's equivalent to a visit here to the Sheikh Zayed Mosque. It's also not religious as a symbol, really. It's seen as an intercultural faith. It's really a symbol of many minds coming together, many cultures coming together. In fact, the big carpet, that is a hand-woven carpet, where at a time 40,000 people can offer prayers at the same time, that is actually woven by Iranian women. So in a way, there are contradictions in this, but there's also a beautiful part of many different cultures coming together, and that in a way completely encapsulates the symbolism that this visit holds, especially making sure that the first public appearance that he's making is at the Sheikh Zayed Mosque.
Right. The point that you brought up there, Kirti, is exactly the point that Ambassador Kachhu, who was there in 1981 when the last Indian Prime Minister visited, that this is intercultural, not really a religious site, the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque, as Shahid Siddiqui was also pointing out. He talked about the carpet is, I believe, the largest hand-woven carpet in the world, and some of the marble used in the Grand Mosque also from India, apart from other places in the world. Kirti?
Well, that's right. In fact, what's interesting about this entire structure is it's not that it's just spectacular, but also that it has workers from different parts of the world coming together to build it, to conceive it, to even put it together. And also jewels have come in from different parts of the world. The marble, like you pointed out, some of it has come from Italy, some of it has come from India. So there's, of course, a whole lot of mixture of cultures coming together, and that's really the beauty of this mosque, and that's one of the reasons why it's considered so important as well. Amitabh?
If we just stay on the line, and I believe Ambassador Kachhu, you wanted to make a point?
No, I think Sheikh Zayed was a liberal in the Arab Gulf context. He was a visionary leader. He laid the foundations of the UAE, but he was also a very pious Muslim, and the fact is that this is a mosque. It is a mosque where where those who follow the Islamic faith go for prayers. And the Prime Minister visiting this mosque, even if it is a religious place, I think there is nothing wrong. It is perfectly in keeping with the plural traditions of India. We should not try to sort of downplay this aspect.
Sure, Shahid, though I accept the point that you were making earlier, but you don't subscribe to the view at all that the Prime Minister is actually making a statement to NRIs in the UAE and in the region, because if I'm not wrong, 75% of the NRIs in the UAE are Muslims and Christians, especially from Kerala and Tamil Nadu.
No, the point I was making was that we give too much importance, we give focus on the visit to the mosque, which is not correct.
It's just happening right now, that's why we're talking about it.
Yes, it is important, but not that much important as if it is the real main issue.
Oh, of course not.
It is not about Indian secularism, it's not about UAE's, religious identity. It is about our cultural relationship. This mosque is inspired in a lot by Taj Mahal. And as I had said earlier, like visiting Taj Mahal is not visiting a monument. It's a religious monument. Of course, it's a religious monument in a sense that the Shah Jahan and his wife Mumtaz Mahal have been buried there, but nobody goes there in that way. They go to see the Taj.
Sure.
And similarly, when you go to this mosque, I have not seen this mosque, I have been there. I went there not just looking at a mosque, and there are lakhs and lakhs of visitors from all over the world, Christians, Jews, everybody from the West who come to see the mosque itself. It's like the Eiffel Tower in Paris that you visit. And then going to the mosque is all right. Mr. Modi, there are a lot of mosques in India and where Mr. Modi can visit and make a statement. He doesn't have to go all the way to UAE to visit a mosque and make a statement in India. I think if that is the case, then I think it is very wrong,
Sure. A point well made there, Mr. Siddiqui. Your point is well made there. Master Kaju, now getting to what's really going to be brass tacks here, one of them, when you're talking about the economic issues here, trade and energy, of course, investment possibly, but just looking at the number of Indians who are in the UAE, apart from the Gulf region itself and Saudi Arabia, 30% of the UAE population is Indian and 20% of remittances back to India come from there.
No, I think economically the UAE and commercially the UAE is extremely significant for our interests, and it has been so for the past three and a half decades. Right from say the late 1970s, the importance of the UAE in the matrix of our national interest has increased, and India's weight in international affairs has increased. The image of India, the feel for India within the UAE and the other Arab sheikdoms has equally increased. India is no longer looked upon as a source of cheap labor only. It is now recognized as one of the important global players in the world. The Indian leadership is looked upon. Incidentally, Sheikh Zayed and Sheikh Mohammed, both the ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Zayed have had extremely warm relations towards the Indian leadership.
Sure. Mr. Siddiqui, just coming to you now, what's going to happen next?
So there is a tradition, and that tradition is now continuing.
Sure. That tradition is now continuing, though it's been a gap of 34 years between Prime Ministers visiting there. Mr. Siddiqui, now we do know after this visit to the mosque, which is probably going to be over, he's going to go and meet those Indian expatriates who are there, blue-collared workers, a camp. He's going to go, a residential camp where there are about 28,000 Indians just in that camp. He'll be addressing about 300, and that's why those statistics were important that we were talking about. But later after that, he's going to have dinner with the managing director of the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, Sheikh Hamid bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and the ADIA has an $800 billion corpus that it could help in investment in India.
Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Yeah.
Yes, it is extremely important, and we should have long time back focused on it, because this money not only from UAE, we can make a beginning in UAE. It is then whole of Gulf region, Saudis and others, they have been investing from China to all of Europe and everywhere, but we have not focused on it. And they are keen to come to India, they are keen to invest in India, they are keen to have much more better relations with India, but our focus was mainly on West and Europe and America. But now I think Prime Minister Modi has rightly chosen this country, rightly taken this step to move ahead. It's not only about balancing with Israel, in its own right, we have to have these relations with the UAE, and a lot of investment can come, and Mr. Modi has been making these efforts all along. And I think today UAE also realizes that there was a time in 80s and early 90s when UAE was looking more towards Pakistan, but that phase is over. UAE is now more India centric, and there may be 30% of Indians there, but when you go there you feel as if you are in mini India. They look like 60-70% of the population, because on every street what you see is the Indians, and Indians have done much better than the Pakistanis in UAE, and people in UAE have realized that it's not cheap labor, as Mr. Kardju said.
Right,
India can be now their partner in progress. And
sure. That's the point that you're bringing up there,
growth,
Mr. Siddiqui.
they want to go for.
That's a very interesting point that you're bringing up, because the perception is that it's blue-collared workers that make up a majority of Indians in the Gulf and in the UAE. But again, statistics I'm quoting here, 28% of high-skilled professionals entering the UAE happen to be Indians with technical and managerial backgrounds,
Yes.
Ambassador Kaju. So that's something that India would want to improve on, maybe?
I think it's a natural process. You've already said that I was posted there in our embassy in the early 80s. At that time, there was still question marks, lingering question marks in the minds of many of the UAE business people, the UAE government officials, about the competence of Indian engineers, Indian professionals, not Indian doctors, interestingly. But I think as time has passed, the UAE entrepreneurs have understood not only that Indians are extremely competent, but that Indian companies have the ability to deliver. That was a major doubt in their minds during that period. So as I've said, in the last 4 decades, as India has progressed, the UAE, being a close neighbor, has understood that they have much to gain from the Indian relationship, and that is why you have the foreign minister of the country writing today on Indo-UAE relations and saying that they want to elevate the relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership. Now the Arabs choose their words very carefully, and therefore I think we should take note of what the foreign minister of the UAE has said.
Mr. Siddiqui, just coming to another point, when you're talking about the business angle or economic angle there, we're talking about Indians in or contributing not only to the UAE economy, but sending remittances back. But now when you're talking about that 800 billion oil-funded sovereign fund that the UAE has and India will be looking at in terms of investment back home, in terms of infrastructure, do you think things have changed in terms of red tapeism, in terms of license raj, because we had problems with Etisalat in the past, etc., when there was investment in India? Do you think that perception of India has changed and there will be movement of investment into India as well?
Yes, it has changed, and
I think in the UAE
the message
there
has
is
not gone
a
strongly
right,
to the
Ambassador
Gulf.
Kaju, I just come to you, Mr. Siddiqui.
To the Gulf region. In fact,
okay. Is that
our
for me?
focus has not been on this region, but we are natural partners. If there are any natural partners for growth and development and investment, it is India and UAE. Because UAE may look towards China, but China is not its neighbor. India is like a neighbor, just hours away from Mumbai or from Kerala coast. So we are natural partners. We can provide them skills, we can provide them technology, we can provide them the right kind of companies and others, and they have the investment to bring to India. So we can really work wonders for each other. But I don't understand why we have not focused on this region in the last decade or so when we were opening up. And that message has to go to West Asia that in India they can come for investment. There is no more hurdles in their path, as we have been giving this message to Europe and America, that they must come and we will remove the hurdles. So that message I think Prime Minister Modi tonight will give to the investors in UAE and to the UAE government, because government is extremely important in UAE. It's not just the independent business which will come, it is the government which will be bringing a lot of money to India.